Hello and welcome to Florida NewsMakers. I'm Michelle Ubben, and today we're joined by Florida DOT Secretary Ananth Prasad. Secretary Prasad, welcome.
Michelle, good to be with you.
So there's good news and bad news on transportation funding. The Florida Legislature just invested $10 billion in Florida's transportation needs, but at the same time at the federal level, we know that funding for new transportation projects is to run out in August. So how do we meet our transportation needs in the future?
Well, first of all, from the state standpoint, like you said, it's historic level of funding. It's $10.1 billion. That's a record ever invested in transportation infrastructure in the state of Florida. So can't thank enough my boss, Governor Scott, and the legislature, Speaker Weatherford and President Gates, and showing their commitment for infrastructure, because at the end of the day, having good quality infrastructure is what creates jobs, access to good quality jobs, good quality education, and so on and so forth. The bad news, I guess, is the federal indecision. The Federal Highway Trust Fund is scheduled to go broke sometime in July, August, and potentially will have effect all around the country on projects where we use federal funds. In Florida, we're much better positioned because of the fact that we only rely about a third on federal funds. So, in preparation to this crisis, we've been carrying a higher cash balance so we can continue to pay bills and keep our contracts going, hoping that within 3 to 6 months that Congress will come to a resolution.
Do we need some more creative ways to fund transportation?
Well, and that's ultimately is the issue, is that we need to find ways to fund differently than gas tax, but that requires a lot of coalition and a lot of consensus building, and I'm not sure that currently exists. Gas tax still is a very good funding source, but long term, I think that's going to be pressure is going to be on as we get more electric vehicles, more CNG vehicles, and just the vehicles getting more fuel efficient. People may drive the same amount but consume less gasoline, and hence less revenue for upkeep of the infrastructure.
There really are a lot of technology innovations going on in transportation that are very exciting. In fact, it almost sounds like science fiction when you hear about cars that drive themselves and electric vehicles that can charge on special highway lanes. Do you see technology really transforming transportation over the next few years?
Most definitely. I think if you think about it, just 10 years ago and to where we are now with our just mobile computing, back 10 years ago, I'm sure if you bought a camera with 3 megapixels, that was a big deal. And now you can get 8 megapixels on the palm of your hand on a phone. And you have one of the very fastest microprocessors residing in your purse or in the pocket of an individual. I think that's the next evolution, is going to be the computing power in cars, which most cars now have. The ability for cars to communicate between themselves, and the ability for cars to communicate with the roadside infrastructure so that information can be pushed down to the driver as to weather hazards, as to traffic congestion, as to alternate routes. So I think that's right around the corner, because the advancement just made in pure computing power in the world.
The legislature also passed a law that would allow for a 5-mile-per-hour increase in the speed limit on certain highways. Do you think that's good public policy?
Well, that was not a department's proposal. It was legislature creates policy, and what the bill does is basically lifts the cap, but it still defers the engineering judgment to Department of Transportation. We take safety very seriously. We're measured on safety and measured on fatalities and accidents. So if that bill in fact ends up becoming a law, then I can assure you that we will take it very seriously as to where to raise it. Generally, our roads are not built to handle 75, 80 miles an hour. Now, people drive faster, and there's that element of tolerance there. But we will evaluate if we increase the speed limit. Is the road, the geometry of the road, the roadside barriers and hazards, is it capable of handling that? And at the end of the day, if it's not safe, we will not raise the limit.
You recently unveiled Florida's own version of an anti-litter campaign. Texas has Don't Mess with Texas, and New York has Let's Pick It Up New York. What's Florida's theme, and why do you think it'll work for us?
Keep our paradise litter free, right? It's a paradise. Texas can boast all they want, but they don't have anything like we have. And New York is great, but Florida, with the beaches, the quality, the environment, the greenery, and all the things, it's very important that we do our part in taking it home, take the trash home. We spend $10 to $12 million a year. That's a lot of money. Just think about it. If you can save $5 million a year over the next 2-3 years, that's getting Capitol Circle widened, to 6 lanes. So that's a cost that we can avoid, and if we are just responsible and take it home and put it in the trash, and we can keep our paradise free, litter free, and attract tourism, and generally save money, and make that use of the money at better places than just picking up somebody's garbage.
Secretary Prasad, you're a newsmaker and you're on Florida Newsmakers. Can you give us a tip on a piece of transportation news that's coming out in the next few weeks?
A lot of work, a lot of good work, $10.1 billion, a lot of good projects. We're continuing to advance projects that are important for local communities because, and again, I maintain education is important, healthcare is important, but access to good quality healthcare, good quality education, good quality life, good quality jobs wouldn't happen if not for good quality infrastructure.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Until next time on Florida Newsmakers, I'm Michelle Ubben.